Hey guys, it's Eric from Late to the Game Outdoors, and this is another gear-related video on the outdoors. Some of you probably use a quad or some sort of off-road vehicle for getting back to, or at least near, where you plan to hunt or scout. And the problem with these things is that we love them during season, and then they sit all year long. Sometimes multiple years if it's been a while since your last excursion or your last tag. And when you go to pull it back out, it rarely just starts right up the way you want it. That is going to be the case with this guy. This is actually my father-in-law's. It's a 2005 Polaris Sportsman 800 that has been sitting under a cover in the side yard for 3 or more years at this point. The gas was not drained out, so I'm sure it's just varnish in there. And it's going to take just a few hours and a basic tune-up kit to get this thing even remotely inclined to start up again. So this is just a quick and easy, the general process and what you're looking for, what it's going to take to get that off-road vehicle to start after it's been sitting for a good long time. The details and all that stuff will be a little bit different depending on your make and model, but the principles that we're going to look at today are the same. It's basically get the old nasty gas out of everything that it is gummed up within, probably a new spark plug, and then charge the battery, and then hopefully it'll start right up and we'll be good to go. Now I think for most of you, you won't have to go this far. This thing has fuel injection, and the fuel pump is here inside the gas tank. So I needed to take the tank out so that I could get to this, so that I could make sure it was going to be okay, kind of clean it out a little bit, hopefully not replace it. But for some of you, if you just have a gravity-fed carburetor, you should be able to just drain the tank from the hose, pull off the carb, clean that out. It'll be a much simpler process. But since we're here and I had to take it out anyway, this is still full of nasty old gas. I'm gonna dump it into a couple of approved containers and get rid of it, and we'll keep going. Probably not the official way to do this, but I know my father-in-law just replaced this fuel pump, I think about 3 years ago, before the last season we used this thing. So he doesn't want to buy another one. I don't want to buy another one. So all I'm really worried about is this little filter sock thing retaining just kind of gummed up nastiness, and everything seems to be flowing all right. It's not so old that like the gas has congealed, it's just bad. So I'm gonna take a little carbon choke cleaner, just kind of spray out this thing, spray down some the inlet here, and put it all back together and hope for the best. And with all that stuff out of the way, we have super easy access to our throttle body here. And right here is the fuel rail. The line comes along this way and comes down here, and this is your service port on your injected fuel rail. And I'm gonna see if I can just let some gas out of there, like release the pressure, get it all cleaned out, maybe spray a little cleaner down the line, and hope that as that cleans out and I pump fresh gas into it, I can avoid having to pull any of this apart. We'll see though. pretend that didn't spill a lot of gas everywhere, and that's a total redneck mechanic move. But I'm pretty impressed with how that worked. Well, I've definitely seen worse. But it wouldn't be bad to replace this while I'm in here. Alright, as you can see, it's hot in here. But while I'm waiting on my spark plugs to arrive via my wife who's at the store, I wanted to make sure I got the fuel, everything in the fuel system as cleaned out as possible. So I had already blown out the fuel rail, which worked really, really well. But I realized I'm sure it didn't get down into the injectors, and I did not want to mess with those, pull those out, unless I have a problem trying to start it later. I wanted to find some workaround. So here's what I came up with. This is the throttle body that really just regulates the airflow and the fuel-air mixture as it comes on in. And then fuel injectors are mounted right in the top there. Those two purple guys. And I did not want to pull those out to get them clean, so I removed the throttle body and took my carb and choke cleaner and just sprayed little bits. I didn't want to be aggressive in here. Just little bits right here on the end where those fuel injectors come in. If there is a little bit of old gas in there, again, it wasn't super gummed up. Pretty quickly the pump will push that through and we should be fine. If not, I may end up doing all of this again when it doesn't start. Alright, well this turned into a multi-day process, mostly because of the winch I was also installing for him that I didn't want to bore you with. But that's all plugged in and working. It's all back together, fresh gas is in. This is honestly the first time I've tried to start it, so we'll see what happens. So, it's really not that difficult to bring one of these things back to life. And if you don't have fuel injection, it's even easier because you can just drain the tank, pull out the carb, and you may want to throw a carb kit at it. It's just a few bucks and you replace a few jets and needles and stuff. There's other stuff on YouTube for that. But basically try to get as much of the fuel system cleaned out of old gas as possible. Put some fresh stuff in it. This one needed a new battery because it had been sitting out in the heat for a few years, uncharged. And a couple new spark plugs just for good measure. Make sure you gap them. If you have a manual, it'll tell you the gap, or Google it. And otherwise, it's a fun little project. It's easier to work on than a car, and she should roar to life. It is night and a thunderstorm just blew through here, so I'm not going to take it for a test right now. But I'll go blazing around the desert tomorrow and just make sure it's running properly. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions specific to your quad, I am not exactly an expert or a licensed quad mechanic, but please post them below. I'd be happy to take a stab at it or try to point you in the right direction. And save yourself some money towing it to a shop before every season, and do this kind of thing yourself. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe and share, and we will see you all next time.